All right. Well, welcome aboard, everybody, to the Derek's Travel Chat little talks. Today, we're going to be talking about South Africa, and I have a number of wonderful people here with me. But I just want to let viewers know that anyone who's viewing from South Africa and Canada and anywhere else in the world, again, welcome. I got my first taste of South Africa last year, and a wonderful trip, and got to spend a week, almost 14 days, I think was it, Craig, we spent together touring around. And I have to say, it was just an absolutely beautiful country and beautiful people. And I can't wait to go back there again. And then I found out just before I left that there's a town named after a great uncle of mine, a relative of mine called Windsorton. And he went there in 1869 and discovered diamonds. Too bad he never left none to me. But enough about me, and it's all about South Africa today, and I am so pleased. And I'll just show you what hangs in my office here. And I can tell you, very, very comfortable in our cold Canadian winters here, wearing it. So first of all, I'd like to introduce David Frost. David is the CEO of South African Tourism Association. Is that right, David?
Okay. Sorry, we just called SATSA. We're the voice of inbound tourism.
Okay. And we have Sally Gray, who is the general manager of Red Carnation Hotel chain in South Africa. Am I correct?
For sales. Yeah, for sales for Red Carnation Hotels.
Yeah. And we have Craig Drysdale, who I got, again, like I said, got to meet last year, and he's sales and marketing director with Inspiration Tours, Travel and Tours. So welcome, everybody. I'm so happy to have you all here with me. And I know a lot of my colleagues across Canada are watching. They have interest in South Africa, and I have some of my clients that are watching. And so hopefully we'll have some questions from Facebook later on as we go through. So David, if you'd like to start off and just give an overview of South Africa, how South African tourism have been dealing with COVID and how you're moving forward.
Well, thanks, Derek. And good evening our side. Good morning to everybody who's joining us. Just before we get into how we're sort of dealing with it, I always think I'm an economist by training. I always think it's useful just to get some numbers and just to understand where South Africa fits in, or where Canada fits in as a source market to South Africa. So in 2019, we attracted 66,577 Canadians to South Africa, which is a sizable market for us. I mean, the US is our second biggest market, source market. We get 373,000 arrivals from the US. Tourism is just it's a very important part of our economy. It accounts for 10% of the South African economy, and indirectly and directly we employ 1.5 million people in South Africa. So it's seen as an important sector. And obviously, when you go into the sort of COVID world where everything gets shut down, the key question then becomes, how and when are you able to open the sector, and how are you going to go and do that? And I can just talk you through a little bit about where we are in that process. So SATSA is the Inbound Tourism Association. We have 1,300 member companies, and we sort of act on behalf of the inbound tourism sector in conjunction with our colleagues in other parts of tourism, the outbound, the business travel guys, the airlines, car rental. We're all in it together, working towards a recovery strategy that we can put into play. So what happened in South Africa, and sort of much like the rest of the world, is we went into a sort of shutdown mode, and it's all based on a risk adjusted strategy level. We started off in level 5, we've come down to level 3, and we've been seeing a partial opening up of the economy around that. So in terms of our recovery strategy and our response to it, one of the key things that we put in place very early on, we did that about a month and a half ago, was to get a set of really well thought through, trade-led. I mean, it's very important. This is all done by the industry, set of protocols that speak to all touch points along the sort of tourist experience and value chain. That was then reversed into government. They've endorsed that. And that is in place. And we've obviously looked at best practice around the world and how that happens. But obviously one of our key attributes is wildlife tourism. So specific protocols in and around how you would manage that part of it. We are in the phase at the moment where we are looking at a partial opening up of domestic tourism. And our intention and our recovery strategy that we're putting to government is looking at trying to get the international side of things open by the fourth quarter of this year. Now, how that happens and how we go about it is a fairly complex exercise, and it's certainly not something that the sort of floodgates won't be opened at once. We've got to look at choosing appropriate source markets, partnering in a sense in a form of a bubble type arrangement with certain key markets. And the first one that we would probably go to would be, we're looking at something sort of a bubble to do with the EU, with France and Germany. I think one of the key things is to have direct flights in that equation. And, we will have to have a look at how the Canadian source market and also how South Africa as a reciprocal market would fit in with Canada. Obviously, we don't have direct flights. We say yet. I mean, hopefully, at some stage in the future, we could sort of look at that. But obviously, with indirect flights, we've got to look at protocols and the role that sort of airlines play within that. So, at the moment, the idea is to sort of focus on the EU, perhaps Germany, France, look at partnering in a piloting type arrangement and see how that whole side of things goes. But in a nutshell, I mean, I think South Africa, although we all we find ourselves in this terrible new world. You've been to South Africa, Derek, and when you have a look at the product that we have and the way that tourism actually happens in South Africa, I think we have a distinct comparative advantage in the COVID world we find ourselves in. We have superb weather. I mean, we're in the middle of winter now in Joburg. It was 22 degrees Celsius today. Not a cloud in the sky. So we have sunshine 362 days a year. We have wide open spaces. Before we went into the sort of lockdown last year, we attracted 2.5 million international arrivals. I mean, you compare that to the mass tourism that takes place sort of between the first world countries, 80 million travelers into Spain and France. And essentially that tourism proposition being predicated on three things: on cuisine, on antiquities, and on culture. And a lot of it happening indoors because the weather's so shitty outside. So huge groups of people moving around. I mean, that model, I would suggest, is gone. I don't think people are going to have appetites to get into big crowds of people. I think Venice's problem is solved. But I think when you look at what we have in South Africa, we are uniquely poised to actually offer, I think, a distinctly safe and a really rewarding holiday. And our big attribute is wildlife. That's, we're fortunate to have Cape Town, and Craig's got the picture behind him, as one of the great world cities. But the principal reason people come to our part of the world is to see wildlife. And that takes place essentially in bespoke little bubbles. You can do it as with your partner, with your family, and it can be managed safely and accordingly. The other thing, just in terms of looking at travel to the Southern Hemisphere, because obviously if we're not going to get into this big first world sort of movement, who are our competitors? And our big competitor is Australia and New Zealand. We were having a chat to them today, earlier this week, and they because they followed a different model to us, where the virus is in South Africa, and we haven't adopted what they've done, which they've gone for the sort of island model where they're going to try and keep it up. They did a survey recently. 70% of Australians don't want international tourists. So they're only looking at opening in late next year. So in the interim, I think as soon as we can get it going, I urge Canadians to come and have a look at South Africa. I think we are well positioned to offer a great holiday in this new world we find ourselves in. So thanks. My just introductory comments from us.
That's wonderful. And again, having experienced it last year, I can assure you it's a beautiful country. And as you said, wide open and so much open air and being able to just look across the landscapes as you both got behind you there. I mean, that's everywhere you go, and it's just absolutely beautiful. So, Sally, I know you're responsible for managing one of the most prestigious hotel chains in South Africa and around the world. How is your hotel preparing, I guess, for the reopening when it comes to physical distancing and some of the health protocols and being able to give your visitors that ultimate South African experience like I had last year?
Yes. Thanks, Derek. So, yes, I run the sales for Red Carnation in South Africa. We've got 18 hotels worldwide. So, we've been very fortunate in South Africa to learn from, especially our London hotels who have taken the lead on the protocols and the health and safety protocols that Red Carnation hotels and all hotels in South Africa, for that matter, are putting in place. So to make it a safe destination to travel to, our guidelines that we have, we're following the World Health Organization, we're following the CDC, and we're following the WTTC with all our protocols to ensure that everything in the hotel is going to be safe and sterilized, and without taking away the authenticity of a five-star hotel and the authenticity of an experience in South Africa, because that's what makes South Africa so unique. It is our people that make our hotels and travel to South Africa so incredible. Of course, as David said, we are focusing on opening up for domestic tourism. So what we are doing as a hotel group in South Africa is using this time to make sure that our staff are trained, because that is going to be so essential as to how our staff are going to be able to work with our guests to make the experience a safe experience, but again, as I said earlier, not to detract from this incredible, for us, five-star experience for our hotels in South Africa, in particular Red Carnation, but every other hotel group in the country. I belong to a forum here in South Africa, and we constantly discuss this, the health and safety protocols and who's doing what, and we all seem to be doing exactly the same thing. We all are practicing and making sure that our guests, our staff are going to be social distancing. For example, our hotels are going to start opening up gradually. We're opening up our restaurants this weekend with social distancing, taking guests' temperatures, making sure that they fill in a form before they come to the hotel. We are going to be opening up our spas, because that's another industry that has managed to open up in South Africa, especially in the last month. And then we will start gradually opening up our accommodation. And of course, we also won't be opening up the whole hotel. It'll be sort of, if you've got floors in the hotel, we'll from a Red Carnation perspective, we'll open up various floors and make sure that our guests are safe in a safe and sanitized environment. So that's what we are doing. All the sorts of things that we should be doing, contactless payments, for example, so that there is, you don't have that the contact with machines, etc. And sanitizing all surfaces. It's all that sort of thing that we are all doing, and we're all working so incredibly hard in South Africa as an industry to get ready, to be tourist ready. David, as David said, we've been chatting earlier this week. I mean, we all chat to David with monotonous regularity. So, and David keeps on saying, this country, we don't have the 80 million people coming to visit us. And so for us, from a game drive perspective, from going to the bush, from doing safari, from being at hotels, you're not going to have tens of thousands of people around you at one time. So for us, the process of this COVID ready is much easier without the millions of tourists.
Just sort of a side question. When it comes to the reuse of rooms, is there any period in between? So if I checked out before someone else checks into that particular room, is that one of the protocols?
Of course, absolutely, it's one of the protocols. And so we have enough rooms to be able to have use a room and then sanitize it, but the room next door to it will be open. So we can rotate rooms while we are sanitizing rooms. We've also even gone from our hotel group to the point of removing tea and coffee making facilities in the rooms and offering it as we'll deliver tea and coffee to the room. If you want a cup of coffee, phone room service and we'll deliver it to the room, rather than having that sort of facility in the room, just that extra care and attention, which from a 5-star perspective is a wonderful thing to be able to offer until we are able to go back to having that sort of facility in the room. But it just adds an extra safety measure in the rooms. But yes, we are going to have as much time as possible to sanitize rooms.
And how about your restaurant?
From our restaurant perspective, we are limited to the amount of numbers that we can take in the restaurant. So at the moment, we can take up to 100 people in our restaurant, one of our restaurants, for example, at the Oyster Box. But at the moment, from this weekend, we're going to start off with taking 20 people in a sitting.
Okay.
And have enough social distancing between the tables so that people aren't seated together. We will take tables of 4 and no bigger than tables of 4, so that you haven't got that a lot of people at one table. We'll also be making sure that when people come to the restaurant, they're not queuing back to back, and social distancing. All our staff will be wearing masks. All our staff will be sanitizing. We've changed our menus even, and I know that a lot of hotels are doing this. We're offering a restricted menu so that it's not as many items, so that we can handle this, the volume of people that will be coming through to the restaurants.
Okay. And before I go to Craig, just to remind people who are watching, if you do have any questions, please put them in the comments below, and we'll bring them forward as well. Craig, I know you've been involved with the movement of people through the transportation and through different forms of transportation in South Africa. And so what are some of the key things being done on a local level to give visitors confidence that all the transportation equipment and personnel are going to be including guests the best possible holiday that, again, that South Africa can offer?
Derek, yeah. Thanks, Derek. I think, I'm not an expert on airlines, but the reality is I think we read a lot what airlines are putting in place, protocols, all the health and safety issues, filling planes by 66%, keeping the middle seats open, configuring different seats and that. So, so those protocols are in place, but really, if you come into South Africa, and really what I just maybe want to concentrate on is really on our fleet, and this is our coaches, our open safaris and that. And there'll be the standard protocols. And like Sally has said, we're following the CDC, WHO, and as well as our health department, government health department protocols, trying to mitigate as best as we can, as far as possible, with regards to the spread of the virus going forward, but also not retracting from the fact that people are on holiday. So the basics of it, these are very generic, because before people get onto the fleets, onto vehicles, they will do a temperature check, hand sanitization, drivers will wear gloves and masks, everybody will wear masks. So all the basic things, we'll relook at the fleet will be a maximum at this stage And what I need to maybe just put, the restrictions that we have in place is military restrictions at the moment. So it's 60% capacity fleet. But as the months go on and we get a handle of this, as it is around the world, those capacities will increase. So as you speak at the moment, this is really the status quo at 60%. But we'll refigure the seats within the coaches and the game vehicles going forward, making sure that every touch point within the guests' travel and as I said, from accommodation to the fleet to restaurants, to everything is looked after going through. You know, at the end of the day, this is our livelihood. Guests, tourists are very important to us, and we want to make sure that, you know, that wherever they are going to, that there are sort of safe keeps and that protocols are followed through. But also ensuring that they still enjoy this wonderful country, what we call South Africa, enjoy our wonderful safari parks, our restaurants, the wonderful cuisine. Don't forget our wines, sought after wines, and really just, and more importantly, meet South Africa, meet the South African people, enjoy the holidays. Yes, this, like David said, this is the new norm. This will probably be for the next 6 months, a year. We're not too sure. Nobody has the answers. But the reality is you could still come to South Africa. It is a low impact tourist destination, great for social distancing. But we want to ensure that people come in on holiday. They don't feel, you know, they're trapped by these regulations. The regulations is going to be something that we as a globe are going to be going through, like I said, for the next 6, 12, 18 months. But we want to show you in South Africa that you have a fantastic time, and that all the touch points, and we mitigate as much as we can going forward, ensuring people don't contract the virus going forward in that, and really just have a good time. Mitigate as much as we can going forward.
Sorry, I did something here.
No problem. So yes, so very much the standard protocols that has been pushed out through the globe. Those are the protocols we'll follow through. What I wanted to do, Derek, and I'm not too sure because I wanted to share a video, and it was a 1-minute video, just courtesy of Cullinan Transport, which is one of our operators who owns fleet, and they did a video that they released today. It was actually a fantastic video, and they've allowed me to play it. So I don't know if you can allow me just to share.
You go right ahead. Can you see the share button there?
I can see the share button, but to host, you need to. Okay, got it. I just wanted to play this video because I thought this was a brilliant. It just encompasses of what's going on.
Okay. Nothing showing up, Craig. It's not showing up on the. I'm not sure what's programmed in there.
Okay, so it's thrown me out for some reason. Okay, but I think that you guys see that. I think it gives it sort of gives the backdrop of what the type of protocols that are in place at the moment, that are happening at the moment going forward, from fogging the vehicles, the deep cleaning, to managing the fleet. And that's not just on luxury coaches, but right through to safari vehicles.
Just a quick side is that in that I know with a lot of the transportation companies and the tour companies, when they have large groups of people, to be fair to everybody as far as being able to see out through the front and different things and all that kind of stuff, they do this rotation pattern. Is that one of the things that would be not happening because of people then sitting in different seats every day and that kind of stuff? Or would we be trying to keep people in the same seat so that there's less of a chance of?
No, I think, the key to all this, of course, is the tourist guides and the drivers. But, I think the rotation of seats would still happen because people want to have, some people want the front of the vehicles and different views of the vehicles. You must remember the vehicles are going to be cleaned each night, and they will be sanitized and fogged. So rotating the seat won't be an issue, because when they come in the morning, the seat will be, the seats in the coach will be in the sanitized state. So the rotation will still happen. I think that's a key element, particularly traveling on big coach tours.
David, that little, or Craig, that video that you were just trying to show there, can you email it to me right now? And then, because for some reason it didn't show up while we were sharing, and then I can put it up on the screen if you're able.
Okay. Well, yeah, maybe, yeah, I need to embed it. Maybe what I'll do is maybe send it to you afterwards, and you can upload it to your link.
Okay. Either way. Okay.
We'll just go back and look at that. Yeah.
Sure. All right. So just a few more questions that have come in from some of my counterparts and some other people I've been chatting with. I'm just seeing there's some. All right. So yeah, I can't. There's a few comments there, but no questions. This is for either one of you now. This is can you tell people about the Big Five? People want to know what the Big Five is about South Africa. I know the answer, but.
What, you want to know is this a test me on the animals? Or,
yeah.
Well, we're looking at the elephant. Now this is a test. Elephant, the lion, buffalo. Okay, now you got a rhino and leopard.
Yeah. And the trick is when you're on the safari to try to find them.
Well, they're actually the big six, and we also got the whales.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'll just give I think, like get David's point of view on, I mean, you're all about the inbound. Can we tell people a little bit about some of the key things that if I hadn't been to South Africa, were some of the key places that I should go while I'm there?
Oh, sure, Derek. I mean, as I said, one of the main reasons people come to this part of the world is for wildlife, and we have a big, iconic national park, the Kruger National Park, it's the size of Belgium. So, just to put it into perspective, I mean, I know you guys have pretty big sort of spaces in Canada, but it's an amazing part of the world, and around the park are a lot of private game lodges. So you would get a really great value experience in the Kruger Park. And the great thing is you can self-drive. So you can self-drive, pick up a car in one of the main centers, either, Johannesburg is the main aviation hub into South Africa. And in 4 to 5 hours, you can be in the park self-driving yourself around. But there's also a whole range from sort of 3 up to really luxury wildlife sort of game lodges around the park, where you get a far more bespoke experience. It will be, you're at the lodge, 5-star treatment, and you have your own ranger. You're in an open a Land Rover, and literally while you're sitting in the Land Rover, the leopard walks a meter or 2 away from you. I mean, which is also an interesting element of sort of social distancing. But the animals are oblivious to the sort of vehicles. You're not interfering with them, and it's just an amazing experience. So there's the wildlife side of it. Obviously, we've got Cape Town as a world city, great culture, great food. And then you've just got this incredibly sort of rich tapestry that South Africa has as a country. We're one of the few countries in the world that has gone through the horrific past that we have. We've come out the other side peacefully. And there are rich stories to be told, not only the struggle against apartheid, but going way back in our history. So they're amazing music. They're amazing places of sort of interest. There's a battlefield where 3 of the great sort of leaders of the you know, the sort of 19th century and into the 20th century on the same battlefield. Gandhi was a stretcher bearer, and little known fact, he spent 26 years of his life in South Africa. Winston Churchill was at the same battle, and one of the great Boer generals who became Prime Minister of South Africa, Jan Smuts, was on the same battlefield. So I think there's something for everybody. And then just, you know, you've obviously got Cape Town, but you know, Johannesburg and Durban are really interesting African cities. There's a great art scene, really, really interesting contemporary art going on. And so, you know, I think South Africa really has, I mean, we used to say the world in one country, which is a double-edged sword, but it certainly has a lot to offer. And then my final point is it's all underpinned by amazing first world infrastructure. So, you know, I'm not trying to disparage any of our competitors, but doing a self-drive in Kenya, buy yourself a kidney belt. You know, you can do a self-drive in South Africa and you're on great roads. There's great car rental companies. We've got great internal airlines. So the great thing is it's an empowering destination. And in the COVID world, if you're coming here, say as a family, you can have a great experience, and you're in control of what you are doing and how you're going about it. Obviously, with all these protocols in place. And just a point on the protocols, it's great that, but you know, what we need to do is also keep a balance that, you know, people are on holiday. You know, we can't, you know, be nannying people 24/7. You know, they're there, it's a safety net, everybody's being responsible. And as a country, you know, we're not having debates and in senates about whether we should wear face masks or not, you know, and whether it's offending God and that sort of thing. You know, we're a disciplined crowd, laws have been laid down, everybody's adhering to it. And that's the way we roll. And I think that you can come and have a holiday in this environment and still really have a holiday rather than a COVID type sort of experience. So I think, you know, we look forward to this thing opening up. And I think when it does, I think we'll establish a sort of a normality in how all these things happen. At the moment, it's all a little bit in the future and it's sort of slightly daunting. But as soon as it happens, I think we'll start rolling with it quite easily.
Okay.
Could I also add something to what Dave has just said, Derek, and also to add that how much incredible value for money South Africa is. You know, we have, unfortunately for us, our exchange rate is not favorable for us, but for the international tourists to come into South Africa, the value for money is outstanding. I know that, you know, for a really good bottle of wine and a really outstanding meal, the prices are incredible for the international tourist, from a Canadian dollar, from a US dollar, from a British pound, from a euro. You know, once it's converted to rand, and your value for money, once you're on the ground, that is where South Africa really pulls out all the stops. And that's something that is incredibly memorable because you're going to get bang for your buck. And that's what everybody wants. You know, when you go and have a great meal and a bottle of wine and you look at the bill and then you just think, wow, or you look at the check and you think, my goodness, back home it would have cost this. And I think that is such a phenomenal thing that South African has to offer for the tourist, is on-ground value.
Yeah, it was a real eye opener for me too. I mean, just trying to get used to the rain, and I think I was up on Table Mountain at the time and bought a couple of little trinkets and a little magnet was 44 rand. And I keep in my dollar marking $44, but then, you know, it turned out to be $4.40 or something Canadian. So
exactly.
And the other example I have of that is when I was leaving at the airport, I went in and, you know, had a drink and whatever, and it cost me 60 rand. And I come home and it's just minuscule on my debit card, right? And I was saying, okay, and that included tip and everything. So, but yeah, no, I mean the value. I can say through experience that the value is unbelievable. Craig,
Derek, can I just add something from my side? Just something else that we've been working on as an industry here, because obviously this is a this is a whole new ball game, and we are not in the position where we're getting any of this legislated or involving the state. But what we have done is facilitated, as the Inbound Association, some conversations amongst ourselves about making the booking process easier and more flexible. I think there was obviously an approach to the whole value chain operated and deposits and cancellation fees and all of that. We've been at pains, and I think this is something that perhaps your audience should just be aware of, to look at how we can actually make those conditions a lot more flexible, because basically what we're in at the moment is a climate of fear, and if we can reduce fear and risk and anxiety, we can hopefully increase demand. So we'll have some news on that, and possibly through your good self we could sort of feed that into the Canadian trade when we've got some more sort of concrete things to sort of say about it. So I'm not going to hold Sally and Craig's feet to the fire here, but we're certainly looking at particularly with COVID-related incidents, just being able to be to make that whole process a lot more flexible and accommodating.
Craig, anything to add? Or
no, just really from my side, just picking up and to say, for us going forward, it's business as usual in a little bit of an unusual world going forward. But I think the key thing is, is that yes, these protocols will be put in place. How long, we're not too sure. That guess everybody will go through that. But certainly from a South African, when we do open the borders, and we're hoping very soon, that we will be ready. We will be ready. All our touch points will be ready. All our key suppliers, and I talk, and I'm sure David represents, but I can tell you from sort of inbound tourism, all the inbound operators, and that will be ready for this thing. And as David says, we're very serious about this business. We're very serious about tourism. It's our livelihoods, and the reality is, yes, people will enjoy their holidays, but those safety protocols will be in place, and we just, we'll just really give people a wonderful experience and time. So as soon as we open for business, you guys will know about it. And yes, for value of destination, absolutely. I mean, I think the rand has swung 30-40%. Now it's sort of Canadian. For what you can buy for a glass of wine, I can buy almost 2 bottles of wine. So the value for money is great. The sparseness, the space, it's there. So South Africa has all the ingredients to make it a world-class destination, even under these sort of dire times going forward. Life will go on, and but like David says, we'll do it very softly, and there won't be this nagging. People will enjoy their holidays, but in a good clean environment.
Two of the things that actually stood out to me while I was there last year. One, the going to the Apartheid Museum in Johannesburg, and then going to the if I get this correct now, Soweto village. Am I saying that right?
Sotho
village. And the way they greeted us as guests and so on. I mean, that was an experience that hopefully I'll get back to do it again. But it's once in a lifetime experience for most people, and hopefully they're able to continue to do that kind of a part of your tourism as well, right? That connection with the people.
Yes. Well, I think, Derek, we're very fortunate, and I'm not biased, to say that we live in the most beautiful country in the world with the most incredible people that offer the most phenomenal hospitality. And, we really cannot wait to welcome the international tourists back to this country. And even with the protocols that we've got in place, as David said earlier, it will not detract from the overall experience, because what we want is to offer a safe environment for all our guests and our clients. And all the DMCs in South Africa are working so terribly hard to make sure that that is happening, together with the hotels and together with David and SATSA and his support. once this does happen for us, the experience that the guest and the client will have in South Africa, it will be second to none, as it always has been in the past, as you experienced. And for anybody that wants to come back, and for the first-time visitor, it's going to be incredible, and it'll be memorable. And that's really what South Africa is. We create memories, we create experiences, and we create people that want to come back to visit us, which is so important for us.
Well,
Derek, could I just make a point, if I may?
yeah.
You know, I you've seen my bio, and for my sins, I served on the board of South African Tourism for a while, and we undertook quite a high-level roadshow last year. So I was with the acting CEO of SA Tourism, and we were in Toronto. We met a lot of the sort of key sort of trade partners that South Africa has, who were based in Toronto. One of the things that struck me in the session that we had was there was a paucity of information, real information about what was going on in South Africa, that what was happening with safety and issues around that. And there's and particularly in the COVID world, having this real-time information when you're in the business of sending guests to another country, to me is invaluable. So something that we're doing as SATSA, we represent the inbound tourism industry in South Africa, but we in the next month are opening up an international affiliate membership in which the people who join, members of the trade in Canada, be it travel agents or tour operators, will join. We think it's a fairly sort of nominal joining fee, but you're going to get all the communication that we put out, and we do generate quite a lot of this. We'll be going real time to those people, but we will be creating is essentially a buying bubble, because in this new world, I think one of the key things everybody wants to know is who's left standing. Who's going to survive this? So the other thing that you would get if you become an international affiliate member is you get access to the SATSA database. We're a credibility organization. We check financials, insurance levels. Craig and Sally will attest to this on an annual basis. So we really are able to sort of speak on behalf of a credible basket of products and DMCs in South Africa that the Canadian trade can do business with confidence. So just wanted to sort of throw that out there, because I think, that type of thing of having real-time information and knowing that you're dealing with credible businesses is going to be, I think, very important in the world that we go into.
Well, I mean, that was, to be quite honest, David, I mean, that was one of the basis behind my reaching out to Craig, and, after meeting him last year and getting to know a number of people in South Africa that, my first impression was, people said to me, is it safe to go there? When I came back, I can attest to, I had no issue with, traveling to South Africa, and I go back again tomorrow. So, I think, the important part is, as we begin to clue up here, one of the things that for me, and I came across it again today as I was preparing for this, is the person who was known as 466-/64 for so many years. And I don't know if you can see it. And the quote underneath this has so much meaning in the COVID world. It's in our hands. And it's in our hands as travel agents for our clients. It's in your hands the same way for my clients and for the good of your country and the good of the globe. So again, thank you very much for being part of this for me. It's been a wonderful experience. I don't know if there's anything you each would like to say before we close. The floor is yours. David?
Derek, maybe just in a closing statement from my side. So I think it was Elliot who said, if you only visit 2 continents in your lifetime, visit Africa twice. And really, that's my parting shot. It's fantastic country. The continent's fantastic. And, you know, Dave talks about the tapestry, and you just touched on the cultural. Absolutely, the cultural villages, the culture, all the cultures within South Africa will be available and will be there as part and parcel of the offering that we give. You know, we're made up of 11 different languages, different cultures, and that's why everybody refers to us fondly as the Rainbow Nation. But that, you know, that is part of who we are, and the stories, the experiences. Particularly, I know, Derek, you were very touched by the cultural experiences last year. That absolutely would be part and parcel of the offering going forward. And that is very unique in our offering, and what we offer, nobody does around the world.
People still don't believe I ate that bug.
Yes. Mopani, yeah, Derek had a Mopani room. Absolutely. So well done. So Derek, just from my side, thank you very much. And yeah, we're just looking forward to the future, and you know, and pushing on, and but doing it as best as we can. But welcome everybody with open arms. Thanks, Derek.
Sally.
Yeah, I think I said it earlier when I said that we are tourism ready. We are ready to welcome everybody back to South Africa when our borders open, hopefully sooner rather than later. And please have a look at our websites, have a look at what we have to offer in South Africa, because as I said, the value for money is just incredible, and the experience is second to none. And I'd really want to say thank you so much for this incredible opportunity to be on your show tonight. I'm very grateful and humbled.
Thank you for coming. David, there's one quick question just got emailed to me. There's some people want to know where the direct flights into South Africa come from right now. Because I know we don't have it from Canada, but I know there's one from London and I think Frankfurt or somewhere else. So
yeah, look, I mean, the main feed is in, you know, in terms of volumes, come out of sort of Europe. So obviously there's direct flights from sort of London, Paris, Germany, Amsterdam. So mainly out of the sort of European markets. There's also incredibly, you know, this was in sort of pre-shutdown period. We had incredible connectivity through the Gulf, through Qatar, Emirates, Etihad. So, you know, literally there was something like, I think, 12 flights a day into Joburg if you combine all those airlines together. And then out of the States, we have Delta that flies directly from Atlanta. SAA was flying directly into Washington, New York. And then United had just put on a direct New York, Cape Town plane. I was on a webinar with the Delta guy, and they're very keen to get their flights going in October again, which will be a Atlanta, Joburg, Cape Town hookup. So, and then, you know, we've obviously got there's Singapore, and, you know, come in via.
I know for Canadians,
it's mainly from Canada, I would say, particularly the eastern side of Canada. You've got your connectivity through Europe or through the States. And if you're in Vancouver,
most of it will be through.
Also looking going through Asia. But anyway, just from my side, I just want to thank you for the opportunity. I mean, it's just been, it's very rare that we get an opportunity like this. And, you know, I represent really good people. There are solid tourism businesses here that can't wait to welcome Canadians back in as soon as we can sort the logistics out and get their flights. We're incredibly confident that, you know, we'll give you the holiday of a lifetime. And one of the other big things that we haven't spoken about is, you know, there some things we struggle with, some things we're not so good at. We think we're quite authentic, but we have one of the highest repeater rates as a tourism destination of any country in the world. And it's precisely of that, you know, the experience you spoke of, that it touches your soul somewhere. It's not just a, you know, looky-see sort of thing. And as a result, our repeater rates are great. So we urge your members, invest in us. You'll sweat that investment and get it back time after time. But thanks so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Well, again, thank you on behalf of all of the listeners for providing the information that you have today. I know it's going to be invaluable to my counterparts across the country who are watching as well, and to my clients. hopefully sometime in the near future, they'll consider looking at South Africa, and we'll be able to get them and myself and some others all back over there again to enjoy your hospitality and your just wonderful nature of the nature itself, but the nature of the people and so on. So again, thank you very much. And I know it's getting late over there now, but have a great evening, and hopefully we'll talk soon. Bye-bye.